Speaking of disaster relief programs, oh my, this section is called Exposures. A US government report published on Thursday found that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, mismanaged the distribution of goods in Puerto Rico after Hurricanes Irma and Maria, leading to delays in the delivery of food and water. Common sense questions. Haven't FEMA done this after every disaster? And why hasn't it been addressed? The Office of the Inspector General said it took more than 2 months on average for the goods to reach their final destination, and that FEMA had lost sight of nearly 40% of its shipment to the US territory that was worth more than $250 million, of which 98% of those shipments were meals and water, according to the report. 40% of its shipments missing. Yeah, right. That is their usual trick. You bill for supplies and never deliver them, and then they sell it on to somebody else. Common sense question. Will lead FEMA officials be held responsible for paying back the American people the 40% of the shipments they lost? Given the lost visibility and delayed shipments, FEMA cannot ensure it provided commodities to Puerto Rico disaster survivors as needed to sustain life and alleviate suffering, the report said. Officials said goods sat at FEMA's custody or in FEMA's custody for roughly 48 days. Not hours, days. With water and food experiencing shipping delays of 71 and 59 days, respectively. The office said it also conducted a survey that found it took FEMA an average of 10 days after the hurricanes to deliver the first food and water to survivors. Officials noted that while goods were airdropped immediately after the disaster, the quantities were insufficient to meet the survivors' needs. And there you have it. Now, one of the tasks I was asked to take part in for the Trust was a disaster relief program that replaced FEMA, where the plan was to build 6 super centres that would be built 100 miles from the hurricane-affected coasts and stacked with everything that would be required for any disaster, all in bulk. It would have created thousands of jobs. We had transportation companies lined up as delivery to the site, to and from, proper oversight staff to ensure that it all arrived, and every cent was accountable. Now, the total bill came to $105 billion and was given to Mr. Trump in October 2018, with the Trust paying the $105 billion bill in its entirety. Trump approved it, allegedly, and arranged for 5 Treasury-backed credit cards with 5 names on them, including one for Kim, one for me, one for Tom, the White House advisor, and 2 others, of which each card would be loaded with $21 billion to carry out the project. The Treasury was raided by Citadel, a company that runs NYPD and linked to Hillary Clinton, and blocked the cards and threw out the ambassador for the Trust out of the building stating, "We don't care what Trump says or does," and out the door we went. 2 years on from that event now, and Trump has still not fixed that issue either. A Texas grand jury has indicted streaming giant Netflix on child pornography charges. The indictment accuses Netflix and its top executives of promotion of lewd visual material depicting a child with regard to the controversial French film Cuties. Now, according to the indictment, which was handed down on September the 23rd, but only revealed on Tuesday, Netflix did knowingly promote visual material which depicts the lewd exhibition of the genitals or pubic area of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age at the time. The indictment goes on to note, relevant to the legal definitions of pornography, that the visual material in Cuties appeals to the prurient interest in sex and has no serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Now, Cuties, which won a prize at the prestigious Sundance Film Festival in February, was put online to stream into Americans' homes by Netflix on September the 9th. The Sundance Festival, hidden up in the hills of Utah with guarded entrances, is a ritual sacrifice event. Just saying. Now, the French movie, which was called Mignonnes in its native land, depicts a Mean Girls type clique of 11-year-olds, and one of the activities of which is a dance troupe. And the climatic scene is a contest for which the protagonist, a Senegalese immigrant, devises a routine which includes group twerks, mouth gestures, ground humping, and hip grinding. Other scenes show them rehearsing the numbers and other sexualized moves that the girls are sometimes depicted as only half understanding. Now, Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children, and this charge is without merit, and we stand by the film, according to Netflix. Again, we warned of this, and this is an attempt by the perverts in our society to normalise it and so eliminate any judicial actions taken against them when they're caught. And once you go down a path like that, there is no end. Coming soon on Netflix and national TV, bestiality is good for animals. You may laugh, but this is what these people do and promote it. All for the public's acceptance. They have to get the acceptance. And this movie is a tester of public opinion's exercise. That's what it's about. It's seeking your acceptance, and to see how many will reject it. Because if many don't, we're going to see more and more and more. That's how it works. Next is race issues. A black militia group called Not Fucking Around Coalition, NFAC, assembled in Lafayette, Louisiana this week to protest police violence. And the demonstration comes amid growing racial tensions in the United States. And several hundred black-clad NFAC members, many of them carrying assault rifles, paraded through Lafayette on Saturday, and the column included people wearing body armour and other tactical gear. Now, the march was held to seek justice for Trayford Pellerin, a black man who was shot and killed by Lafayette police in August. The militia also reportedly motivated to hold a rally in the city after a Louisiana congressman allegedly threatened them in a Facebook message. Now, the march thankfully ended peacefully, but one individual was detained after accidentally discharging his firearm, according to the NFAC, and the person involved was not part of their organization. Yeah, right. Now, the US has been rocked by months of anti-racism demonstrations initially sparked by the death of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police, allegedly, and many of the protests have descended into riots. Now, the NFAC leader, National Front, who calls himself Grandmaster Jay, gave a speech during the event in which he argued that the US President Donald Trump's Make America Great Again slogan doesn't apply to black people. And he said, "I can't remember a time in this country when it was great for us," he said, and then led the crowd in chants of black power. And yes, I agree on one statement there. Much of the treatment of blacks before 1980 was beyond barbaric. That brought much shame to this country. But has anything changed since within the black communities, since their rightful joining with people of all other colours? Why are the communities still rendered like ghettos with graffiti everywhere, riddled with drug and prostitution racketeering? And why are the highest rate of murders black on black killings? You know, there has to be some balance here on both sides. Black people are demanding respect, which is fine. Then drastically clean up your own communities then, and the rest of the people will support you in that endeavour. Respect is something you earn through your own actions, not demand because you are one colour or another. And how about a not effing around coalition to clean up your neighbourhoods? And I'm calling on the many good and decent black people to organise that and stop these actors within your community causing mayhem and running divide and conquer programmes. Grandmaster Jay. The Grandmaster, eh? Do people not get the irony of that label? One, it's Freemasonic, which has traditionally not allowed blacks in their many fraternities, and two, it's a KKK term for the leader. Oh my. How stupid can people get? And then we come to more levels of utter jackassery. A linguistic professor, Mary Buchholz, kicked off her presentation at a recent online conference for academics by condemning all white Americans as racists, and said deniers must acknowledge their guilt and do better. As a white American, she said, I'm by definition racist. I was trying to find out which race she's from, because I have a feeling it was born too, with a name like Buchholz, who chairs the linguistic department of the University of California, Santa Barbara, and said at a September 11th webinar hosted by the University of Wisconsin-Madison, "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise," she added, "that all white Americans are racist." As a guest speaker at the lecture, Buchholz's topic was billed as the white supremacist and colonial underpinnings of linguistics, but her talk centered more on the allegedly inherent racism of white people. She said, "I know there is a sort of rhetoric of white people in the United States rejecting the label of racism, but I think we need to acknowledge that and do better." And she likened white supremacy to a pandemic or disease and argued that there's no such thing as non-racism, as all people are either racist or anti-racist, and you can't be neutral. Yet again, we see the Hebrew Anunnaki policy of declaring one particular group as racist to fulfill their agenda, when the fact is, all colours are racist. Fact. From an overview point of view. Not one group, in overview terms, wishes to mix and cohabitate as a group. Look around you. Natives are on their own reservations. We have regions of this country that house Germans, Italians, Puerto Rican, Jamaican, Jewish, Irish, Chinese, Koreans, Hispanic-only communities. And people go and mix only with their own people. That's not created by the system. That is done by the people themselves, and that by definition is a form of racism. And why I say all colours are racist. Don't tell me that black parents have not gone ballistic if their child brings home a white person as their boy or girlfriend. It is frowned upon by many in the black community. And mixing with Hispanics for blacks is also considered a no-no in overall terms. So please, let's cut out all this sanctimonious bullcrap of we're not racist, because the evidence states otherwise. My theory, as mentioned in previous shows, is we don't, by and large, mix. Because we're not all originating from the same planet or species. And by species, I mean we did not all come from the same humanoid stock. Genetics proves that beyond a doubt. But it doesn't mean to say we can't all come together. Now, the latter assertion echoed the race obsession of Ibram Kendi, who is a Boston University professor who directs a Center for Anti-Racist Research and was rewarded in August with a $10 million donation from the Twitter founder Jack Dorsey. So people can send $10 million for a fake program, but can't send $10 million to feed people. Oh my, what fantastic versions of humanity we live amongst. Not. And Kendi went so far as to argue that the term not racist should be removed from the human vocabulary because a person can only be racist or anti-racist. Where's the triality? There you go again. Common sense. Yet more think tank word salad by so-called professors or experts. And like I said, there are no experts in any field. They're only experts on their shortened scripts of narrative. Real experts know 95% or more of their subject. And most experts have less than 65%, and the third missing are the key components. Mr. Kendi was born in, just saying. Now, Buchholz also railed against capitalising the W in the word white, even though the AP style book for journalists earlier this year ruled that the B in black must be capitalised when referring to black people. White people have built a system of white supremacy to oppress everybody else, Buchholz argued. I'm convinced this woman is born to. Convinced of it. The professor shared with their audience a link to documents from a workshop on how to be white allies, apprentices, and accomplices. No, just no. White people in the main have been labelled as the oppressors, when a certain other race of people who declared themselves as white when they're not, the Hebrews, had much to do with their oppression. It was they that ran all the slavery ships. Go and research it for yourself. And the best thing black people can do is go and listen to one of your own, Dane Calloway. He'll tell you all the history of the black race you'll need to know. But be careful, he will tell you the truth and you may not like it. It's just bad actors with their sweet, little and maybe large lies.